Dr. Walter Harrison, President of the University of Hartford, faculty, staff, and students, distinguished members of the Hartford community, friends of Rwanda, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to be here today at this great university, particularly when you are launching the Genocide and Holocaust Education Initiative. And I thank the Morris Greenberg Center for this wonderful work. Let me also thank Dr. Joe Ozaki and his colleagues for their commendable work in Rwanda in this area. Rwandans know only too well the horrors of genocide and appreciate and support this initiative because we have a shared interest in educating others about the crime so that it never happens again. The people of Rwanda have stood up against all forms of injustice and defended human dignity in the past, and we continue to do so because our resolve is steadfast. This conviction and our history have made the combat against genocide and ideologies that support it anywhere in the world a moral obligation for us. The tragedy our country faced revealed a character of the Rwandan people that has been essential in the rebuilding of the nation and in its socio-economic transformation. Resilience, vision, and ability to reach a consensus. And speaking about vision, I notice that this is a quality we share with this university and with the wider Hartford community. This university is the product of a vision the community had for its future, to build a higher learning institution that would serve the needs of its members and propel this area forward. It served that purpose and has since grown beyond the confines of Hartford and become a world-class learning center that attracts scholars from across the world. Rwanda's story is also one of a vision shaped by our past, local realities, and the universal desire for better and dignified lives for our citizens. If we had to move from this past and transform our country into a modern, prosperous state, we had to define a vision of the future we wanted for our country within the global community. This recognition was the genesis of our development roadmap called Vision 2020. Vision 2020 is a broad consensus document that was arrived at in the year 2000 after a wide national consultative process. Arising out of this and prior experiences, national dialogue and consensus building have become important elements of our national ethic. They inform our policies, which rest on the participation of all citizens in all matters that affect their lives, and inspire our relations across the world. Rwandans envisaged the main objective of the vision to be the transformation of the country into a middle-income country by 2020. This would mean raising the per capita income from US $290 to US $900. This has since been revised upwards to US $1,900. It would require reducing the poverty rate from 64% to 30% and increasing life expectancy from 49 years to 55. The realization of Vision 2020 is built on 6 pillars. First is a good governance and a capable state within the framework of social cohesion and political inclusiveness. This is followed by the development of human capital and a knowledge-based economy. Then there is the development of the private sector as the engine of our economic growth. Vision 2020 also focuses on infrastructure development and a productive, high-value, and market-oriented agriculture. All of these are happening within the context of economic liberalization and regional economic integration. Dr. Harrison, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in summary, this is what Rwanda's development vision is about. 8 years to the finish line. How far have we come? Quite a distance, although there are still more miles to cover. The economy has been growing at an average of 8% over the last 10 years, 8%. Inflation has been kept to a single digit over the same period. The portion of the population living below the poverty line fell by 12 percentage points from 56.9% to 44.9% between 2005 and 2011. In the same period, over 1 million Rwandans were lifted out of poverty. World Bank and World Economic Forum reports on the ease of doing business and competitiveness indicate a continuous improvement, and for 6 years running, Rwanda has ranked the second most improved place to do business in the world. Some of the benchmarks we had set have been surpassed. For instance, due to a combination of better healthcare, wider access to education, and improved livelihoods, life expectancy was about 59 years in 2012. Projection for 2020 was 55. But as I have said, there is still some distance to go before we can bridge the gap between us and the developed world. The need to build bridges of cooperation in a variety of areas is therefore all that more important. And while it is true that the development of any country is primarily and the responsibility of its citizens, we in Rwanda recognize that when we work with partners who share our vision, we can attain our goals even faster. Since we are meeting today at an esteemed educational institution, and because a key focus of our development is building the knowledge and skills capacity of our human resource, let me start with cooperation in education. A nation is what it is because of the education it provides its people. A well-educated and skilled population is empowered and generally has a high standard of living and better health, is better informed and can therefore make informed decisions individually or as part of a collective. Above all, an educated population is better placed to make more demands on political leaders and also fulfill its civic obligations. One of the choices we have consciously made as part of our vision has been investment in education. We have made education up to the completion of high school free and are increasingly putting more effort in technical and vocational training as well as higher education. In addition to this, the government of Rwanda has entered into partnerships with universities here in the United States to train our students, especially in the fields of science, technology, and engineering. We seek to strengthen existing ties and build new ones because they are extremely valuable to us. Dr. Harrison, I look forward to the day when our young people from Rwanda will graduate from the University of Hartford. In recent times, we have taken cooperation in education a significant step further and invited outside universities to set up campuses in Rwanda. Carnegie Mellon University is already operating a graduate program in computer science and information technology in Rwanda that benefits students not only from Rwanda but the wider East African region. Other American universities are planning a similar move. There are mutual benefits from this arrangement. Rwandan students gain knowledge and skills on the ground and easily applied to local conditions. And academics from these universities acquire exposure to different cultures and situations, leading to better appreciation of development challenges and greater understanding between institutions and nations. Universities are well known for nurturing the spirit of participation, competition, and free exchange of ideas in the research in the search for truth. We applied this to governance in Rwanda to empower citizens to participate in all aspects of national affairs and had their energies and creativity for the development of our country. Our vision demands that we move fast to catch up with the rest of the world, which in turn requires us to make certain political and economic choices, including development partnerships. And so it is not only in education that we seek partnerships, but in trade and investment as well. It is for this reason that we liberalized the economy, made important reforms in doing business to make it easier for local and foreign investors to set up businesses, and adopted a zero-tolerance stance to corruption. In conclusion, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the realization of our vision ultimately depends upon an empowered people, a knowledgeable and skilled population, and a leadership that solves problems, delivers services, helps improve living standards, and accords all Rwandans their dignity that they all deserve. It is this that will turn Rwanda into a modern state and enable it to play its rightful role in the global arena. We can all create it through greater cooperation that bridges the gap between the developed and developing worlds, and also create useful and lasting links between them, their peoples, and institutions. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, President Kagame. As I promised, I'm back to ask a few questions that have been submitted by students in our Genocide and Holocaust Studies programs. So you have to assume that I'm somebody other than what you see here in this corporal body in front of you. Here we go. First of all, my name is Rachel Rosenberg, and I am a granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor. My grandfather passed down the legacy of the Holocaust with a brighter future full of opportunities. What lessons do you hope are passed down to future generations of Rwandans?
First of all, I think it all starts with the understanding of our history, learning lessons from that, understanding what went wrong, and building from there. And building from there has been also to share the understanding that people can do a lot better than that. First of all, what we experienced in our history is not what we deserve. It's not good for anybody. It wasn't good for anybody. It didn't benefit anybody. We had loss of life. Even those who actually were responsible for that did not benefit. So that's enough understanding to do things better and move on, and that's what we have been trying to do. And in fact, we have also proved over time that the same people who were responsible for this tragic history and situation are the same people who can turn it around. And we always want to let our people understand that it is in their means for us shape a better future for ourselves, and that's how we have been moving on.
Thank you. Now, a question from one of the teachers in our program, Stu Abrams, who teaches at Avon High School, which is in the Hartford region. Rwanda's social experimentation in reconciliation is unprecedented. It raises timeless questions about personal choice and accountability, about dehumanization and forgiveness. Based on your analysis, what are the most important lessons to be learned from this unparalleled experiment, that is the experiment in your own country, and how can we incorporate those lessons into our everyday lives here?
Again, for us, we've been facing certain realities, and we say to ourselves that, see, we may have friends who have people who want help and people have helped, but at the end of the day, we have to take the lead in dealing with our problems. Help will be helpful, any support will be helpful, but for as long as we don't own the process and take the lead, then it doesn't last. Therefore, there has been a lot of soul searching, and that's how we have attempted and done a number of things, some of which really out of experimenting, not because there are things we can learn from. It's not a textbook issue that you would say this is how they do things and that's what you get when you do it. It's a kind of experimenting with the lives you have lived and the ones you want to live. And therefore reconciliation, justice, as it has happened. And carrying out justice and reconciliation at the same time, these tend to conflict. On one hand, you want accountability and you want to make sure that there is no impunity. At the same time, there is a need to forgive and allow people another opportunity to say, especially when they recognize that mistakes were made, very serious ones, and they want to do better. So the balance is always tricky. But of course, the lesson is for others is if Rwanda can face this situation the way we have faced and make progress, I think other people can do it. And maybe they can even do better.
Great example. One final question. This is actually from Professor Pat, so he could probably ask it himself, but just pretend I'm him. An older version of him. In your remarks, you talked about the importance of economic development, and clearly the international community has recognized your leadership in developing the economy of Rwanda. I wonder if you think back to the genocide, have you reflected on how economic factors and the population density of your country, which is a small country, how they may have helped or at least fostered conditions that allowed for that, and how, if that's true, does economic development help ensure future peace and prosperity?
Right. Let me start by saying, I think for us, I'm sure even others have recognized, we have recognized that there is a very close link between the social, the economic, and the political. You really can't just take one and treat it in isolation of the other. At least that's our own experience. That's what we've seen. That's depending on where we're coming from and even what we're doing today and where we want to be. We've continuously seen the connection between the three. In the absence of one, you always have imbalance even in the others, and you have problems. So we tend to drive them together and improve them all together at the same time. I mean, a simple example, a poor person, we have experienced that, you know, abject poverty. For a population that is deprived, that is hungry, that is, what do you think, if anything, you show them anything that will change the situation and use that, first of all, they will listen to whatever story you tell them if they believe that it is going to change their lives. So poor people, you know, when you talk about freedoms, democracy, good governance, which we all strive for and have been working to achieve, to hungry people, they're not listening. No, they're just worried about, are they going to get food in the next hour or not? That's where the mind is. The rest is just stories. So you have to make sure you improve their livelihoods in this respect, and then the good stories will be well absorbed and acted upon. So there is no doubt the pressures of land, of poverty, of population density acted as catalysts for what happened in our situation. And of course, plus ignorance. There was a lot of ignorance, a lot of illiteracy. That played very well for the leaders who led our people into a genocide.